Okay, today we are going to look at the second part of the language study for Stage 2 Essential EAL. We will be looking at the performance standards and what kind of things you need to do to meet them really well in this task. As you can see, there are actually quite a lot of performance standards being assessed, so we'll need to be very careful in planning what we're going to do to make sure that we make the best possible effort and get the highest possible score. Okay, so first of all, looking at C1 or Communication 1, consistently clear and coherent writing and speaking using varied and appropriate vocabulary. This one should be a bit familiar to you. We have looked at it before. So on our task sheet, this one assesses your ability to accurately and clearly express yourself and use the appropriate vocabulary. So, can you write or speak clearly? Can you use good word choices? So is your writing clear and is it easy to read and understand? For example, is the meaning clear of your sentences and also your paragraphs? Did you include only one idea or at least one main idea per paragraph to develop? Do your ideas logically relate to each other? For example, are you putting them in a good order where you have a first idea leading on to the next idea, or have you just got random things happening all over the place? Are they in an order that is easy to understand and makes sense to the reader? Do they link together effectively to develop the report? So this is using your linking words and your conjunctions. So if we go back up in the task sheet, just wait a second. If we go back up to our academic writing features, you can see here we've got linking words like however, although. On the other hand, these are being able to use some of those things. All right, did you select a range of appropriate vocabulary choices to express your ideas? So these might be technical or subject-specific words, and they could be relating to your research question. They could be related to talking about the interview and the things that you have learnt, or they could be about other examples that you will include. And did you use them appropriately? So it's one thing to throw in a technical word, it's another thing to use it properly and make sure that it's actually correct and makes sense. Did you show you understood the words that you were using? Going back up to C2, discerning. I cannot highlight this one. Okay. Yes. Discerning use of consistently appropriate textual conventions for context and purpose. Discerning means you've thought about something very carefully and you've been very picky in your choice. So you've really chosen carefully. Consistently appropriate textual conventions. So all the time, or at least almost all of the time, you have been choosing the right things to put into your work for the situation that you're in. So this might be developed through your interview planning, or it might be as well in your report. So are you putting in the things that I expect to see in a report? Going down here. Okay. Do you have the correct structure and language for the audience and purpose? Is my short version. Now, some of these sections are a little bit long, and you might find that I've broken up some of these questions into little parts. Have you followed the accepted practices for this type of text or report? So did you write it in the correct way? Have you used the correct structure? And remember, back in our example, we had an introduction body with different parts to it, 3 different subsections with headings, and different aspects where we were talking about the way the language was used, the way that your research told you it should be used, and examples of what happened. Did your introduction successfully provide the context of your interview audience and purpose, as well as provide the scope of the content covered? So, did your introduction explain what's going on? Who is your interview with? Why are they with that person? How is this related to your research project, and why would you choose that person to interview because of your question and the situation? And the scope of the content. So what is your actual question? You'll need to explain your topic question, specifically what you want to find out, and maybe your focus questions, and how your interview will cover that information. not only the relevant information, so not asking about something off topic, but also getting enough information to properly answer the different parts of your research project question. Does your body contain appropriate subheadings to help the reader? Yep, either put in your own or make sure you use the structure provided. Does your conclusion effectively answer the question? Does it summarize your findings, or does it say again, it repeats a short version of what you've already said in your body? Does it tell the audience what you learned? Did you use appropriate tone and register for the audience? So looking here, was it formal and academic? Did you use an impersonal tone? So not, I thought it was really good, but the interview was effective because. And have you used correct grammar to express yourself? Going back on to comprehension, or CP2. Thorough comprehension of ways in which the creators and readers of texts use a wide range of language features and stylistic features. Okay, so this is basically, do you understand how writers use language features to tell us their ideas? You can see here we've got a lot to unpack. This is one big long question, and I've put parts of it on separate lines to make it a little bit easier to follow. So, did you accurately identify a sufficient range of language features? Did you tell me enough about that? Used to obtain or to get information in your interview and additional sources. So basically, did you write enough about these language features, which might be spoken, non-verbal or non-spoken, visual and or written? Did you tell me enough about those things used to get information in your interview and your additional sources? Did you accurately describe the way language is used for the purposes of obtaining information during interviews? And obtaining, again, if you didn't pick this up, means to get. So you need to tell me about the language, how it's used for the purpose of getting information, and specifically how it's used for getting the purpose of information during interviews, using examples, the examples of interviews that we will look at, and also in your own interview. Okay. Analysis, AN1, thoughtful analysis of ways in which creators of a range of texts convey information, ideas, and perspectives. Okay, so this is talking about your ability to analyze, to think about the ways that creators of texts deliver information, ideas, and points of view. Can you think about the different ways in which writers tell you information? How thoroughly, how well, or how much were you able to explain aspects of, parts of, why language is used to get information during interviews? Okay, so how well can you talk to me about parts of language used to get information in interviews? Were you able to express and explain clear judgments about the effectiveness of the choices of language made in interviews? So, can you tell me what worked? What worked well? Why did it work well? Why was that chosen? How good was it? And again, you're looking at not only the example interviews that we're looking at, and I think we're going to look at about 3 or more, but also your own interview that you're talking about. Sophisticated analysis of cultural, social, and or technical language in supporting effective communication in a range of contexts. Just gets more fun here, guys. Right, this one assesses your ability to accurately and clearly analyze the use of social, cultural, and technical language to communicate effectively in texts. So can you think about the use of this type of language to communicate well? So can you identify this language? Point out to me, where this particular social or technical or cultural language is. Can you explain it to me? And can you judge, evaluate, tell me how good it is, the use of this language? For example, the use of technical language in a particular topic. So if we are looking at language features in the report, we can go and have these particular parts are technical language. Language about academic writing, so impersonal, passive voice, expanded noun phrases, foregrounding. The kind of language that we use specifically to describe that topic. So identify, explain and judge the use of social, cultural and or technical language in interviews by either the interviewee or the interview. So this can be your language that you deliberately chose to use, or also the language that you hear back from your person who might well be an expert, in which case, if they are an expert, you're very likely to get technical language. And in your case, I would expect to see an attempt at technical language to make sure that you're trying to get the best possible information and use the correct words to support your research project topic. Depending on what your topic is, you might have different types of social or cultural language, but when we go through this and when you have talked about your topic, we can have a bit of a chat more one-on-one about that. Are we finally up to the last one? I think so. Yes. All right. Last one, versatile selection and use of a range of language and stylistic features to convey information, ideas and perspectives in a range of contexts. So, what does that mean and how do you do it? Our last section. This assesses your ability to choose and correctly use a range of language and stylistic features to communicate ideas, information, and different perspectives. So, can you use the language stuff to talk through your ideas and to tell me your information, but also different viewpoints? So, were you able to use appropriate language to communicate your ideas? Did you accurately use a range of compound and complex sentences? And we will be talking about those different types of sentences, probably both through homework and in class next term. Did you use a range of nominalizations effectively and expanded noun phrases? Again, stuff will be holiday homework and or in class. Did you use a range of evaluative but non-emotive words to express your judgment? So you have to tell me whether it was good or not, but you can't say like this was the worst thing that I've ever seen in my life. Have you effectively foregrounded non-human participants and general participants? Did you use the passive voice consistently and accurately where appropriate? And you do have to be a little careful with the passive voice. We are going to talk about this very carefully because we don't want to overuse it. So normally in English we use the active voice. For this particular report, in some places we will use passive, but don't use it commonly in normal day-to-day English use because it's not commonly used. Have you accurately used appropriate signal phrases and incorporated quotes where appropriate to refer to sources? And some of our signal phrases might include some of our linking terms like however, because however will show us that you're about to introduce a point that might be opposite to what you were saying before, or in contrast, subsequently. In conclusion is a signal phrase that shows us exactly where the ending is, basically, and that we're coming up to the finish or the end of our report. And have you incorporated quotes where appropriate to refer to sources? So you will be looking at your bibliography, or bibliography is what we'll be teaching and going with, not reference list, and potentially in-text referencing, practicing that in-text referencing, as well as the particular type of quoting things that you'll need. Have you selected appropriate evidence from the text to support your findings? So you need to actually show me research, you need to talk to me and give me examples of what things have happened. And have you used a sufficient number, enough, examples and evidence from a range of texts to support your findings? Sorry this took a lot longer than I planned. Thank you for listening.